Anybody else getting choppy audio?
I'm good.
Maybe it's my.
I'm good.
Oh,
I'm
my
good.
Wi-Fi's jumping all over the place.
That might be it.
Son
All
of a
right.
bitch. Oh well.
Oh, that's on air. Welcome, everybody, to another live stream on the Apex Communications Network. As always, I am your host, Jan Almasy, and today you will notice that we have a lot more friends with us. I didn't know we had this many friends, but I think between the three of us, we were able to pull at least one other person. So we'll go ahead and let our guests introduce themselves here in just a second. But to start, Kathy and Tracey, welcome to another week.
Yay.
Hey, happy end of the month.
I know. We made it. First of all, hey, keep it down out there. So if you guys, I'm fine. Seriously? So if you guys,
yelling at your mama, Jen.
I am not. So for those of you that are watching,
yelling at mama.
I'm not at the house anymore. I'm back in the office. I'm so excited. I'm back at La Casa de la Piche, our Apex headquarters here at the Innovation HQ in downtown Canton. It's so nice to be back with all of my leather furniture and my bourbon. Not that I was going through withdrawals during coronavirus, but since Kathy is taking a quick break, we'll go ahead and introduce our guests. So, Melissa, why don't you start and just say how you got introduced to us, first of all, because that's an interesting story, and then a little bit about yourself, where you're from.
Okay. I'm Melissa, obviously. I actually got hooked up with all these crazy people through TikTok, through Jan's TikTok. And it happened to be the night where he was going to casual work and nurse, and he was talking about, dreams, all that stuff. So he made the statement, if you want to talk about it, just reach out to me. And I was like, why not? What could hurt? So reached out to him, and then he introduced me to Kathy. And her and I had a conversation a week ago now, something like that. And she's amazing and awesome. So
2 weeks.
Yeah. So which really helped a lot. So we'll continue and we'll talk about that in the future. But yeah. So, and I'm actually in North Carolina. I am nowhere near Ohio.
Oh, no kidding.
My accent couldn't tell. Yeah. So
yeah. But that's the power of social media, people, right there. Like this is something that I was so excited to have her come on, because I might be a little bit biased towards, the fact that TikTok isn't just a platform for 14-year-olds. But the other half of it is that, we have this reach. We're in different states, we're in different places. Kathy's gonna try to kick some people off the Wi-Fi so she has better bandwidth. But this is something that's cool, right? Melissa reached out, she got connected, she took a leap and said, hey, he's putting the offer out there. I might as well take him up on it and see if it's legit. And it's super awesome that we're all sitting here together talking now. So thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Nicole, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi. Hi, Kathy. I don't think we've met yet.
Well, do I sound as bad as you do? I'm having some audio problems. So sorry.
No, you sound good.
Sorry, Nicole.
You sound good. So I'm friends with Tracey, and I met Tracey through Rising Sun, not Rising Sun, Merging Hearts. And I work out of Rising Sun Holistic Voices. I do vibrational sound therapy and talk about all things, ask big questions about all things metaphysical, and love theology.
That's awesome.
Just like Tracey, we have a lot of beautiful conversations about everything and anything under the sun.
We do.
So where are you from, Nicole, you said?
I live in the Canton area. I actually live in Minerva, Ohio. It's a small suburb off of Canton.
Oh, I grew up in Canton local. I was friends with all the Milanos and the Kikos all the way through 4-H. So very familiar with Minerva. You guys always, the Lutz twins were always the bane of my existence in wrestling. So
oh yeah,
I love that community.
Thank you. It's a cute community, and it's stepping up its game with the art committees, the art and the brewery, and all of our festivals and stuff. Unfortunately, COVID's ruined a lot of that for us this year.
Right.
Stepping up our game here in Minerva.
Well, no wonder we constantly get into existential crises when we're on the show with just me, Kathy, and Tracey. That makes sense that Tracey is this, hidden philosopher that she didn't tell us about.
He is actually quite a deep diver. Yeah, we have a lot of beautiful conversations with each other.
We do.
I feel like that means that you need to be invited to Euchre Night, because if that's going to happen and we're going to have these deep existential conversations, then you need to be added into the mix to get adopted by my mother.
Love euchre. It's one of my favorite games.
Awesome.
Perfect.
I was 5 with my grandmother. I mean, she was pretty serious too. Tables, like not even kidding. she was serious about her euchre. So I know all the old rules. Like that's the way we play, with no ace, no face.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And then David, welcome to the party, my friend. I figured I would let the ladies go first. We'll throw you in the mix here last, but I hear you're quite the character from what I understand.
I don't know who would have ever told you that.
We'll blame it on Kathy, since she's not here to defend herself right now.
Yeah, where did you go again? So anyhow, but yep. So I've known Kathy. I'm not sure for how long, but the one thing with Kathy, we got together because of the chamber that we were both in.
Hi, I'm having.
Who was that?
Sorry.
Nope. Think she's trying to pup through.
Yeah, she would always.
I'm back, but I'm having some problems here.
So I'm telling stories about you, Kathy. How you always planted a big kiss on my forehead or cheek. So that was kind of our tradition. She would wear the lipstick, and we'd be at some event, and she would kiss me on the head or the cheek. And, so that's how I know. That's how I'm here, and that was kind of our tradition. She would wear the lipstick, and we'd be at some event, and she would kiss me on the head or the cheek.
And before I met David, I would see his signs all around town.
I feel like there's a little bit of echo in someone's mic here. I'm going to kind of go through and look and see here. Okay. If we have, so just for best practice, before we move into some of the questions and stuff like that, try to keep your volume just loud enough so that you can hear it if you don't have headphones, because your microphone on the computer will pick up and start to cause reverb. But then that's really about it. It looks like Kathy might be trying to pop back in. Oh,
There I am. I'm on the phone, but I'm here.
She's
perfect.
God, I love technology.
Oh, it happens to the best of us. So we went all we have to catch up on. We went through, we introduced everybody, and then we'll just start to get into our 3 questions for the week.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Let's Talk About Something Else. I'm so glad you're here tonight.
The good news is that now that we're in the studio, coming up here soon, we'll be able to eliminate all of these technological issues except for our guests, because I have a bunch of DSLRs that I'm hooking up to stream directly from the studio. So
Nice.
It'll be the OGs, the real 3, popping into the studio, and then we'll be able to stream directly from here.
All right.
So we'll just go ahead and dive right in. So Kathy was kind of talking to me a little bit before we decided to do this live stream this week. Corey, I'd like to say hi, welcome. And she was like, do we want to go kind of deep, or do we want to keep it light? And we kind of decided that we were just going to make it very patriotic and focus on Memorial Day, since it was just yesterday. And so we kept all 3 of the questions kind of the same. We're just going to talk about Memorial Day and talk about what it means to us and some really patriotic things. So we'll just start off with the first question, right? And since we have so many players in today, what we'll do is we'll just kind of start. I'll ask the questions tonight, and then we'll just kind of have Melissa go, Tracey, Kathy, David, Nicole. We'll just kind of go right across the screen there. Okay.
Okay.
What
and
about
then
your answers too, Jan?
I'll wrap it up at the end and then ask the next one.
Okay.
All right. So question 1, do you have a favorite patriotic song?
Mine would be the Lee Greenwood "God Bless the USA." I don't know why. It reminds me of fireworks and 4th of July more so than Memorial Day, but it's the one that I always go to.
That's my favorite too, Melissa.
Old school.
I can respect that. Other
Than
Tracey?
that, it would be Jimi Hendrix. "Star Spangled Banner" is a close second.
Oh, there's a good
Ooh. And the cool thing is that one doesn't even really require words. That one's just amazing shredding on the guitar.
So
I don't know if mine qualifies, but mine would be "What a Wonderful World."
Oh,
because
Tracey, you're muted.
I'm muted?
No, I can hear you.
yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
What a Wonderful World, because they always play it during fireworks, and I just love when Louis sings it.
Ooh, we're gonna have. I feel like the Waterworks are gonna make an appearance. That is such a beautiful song. I think.
What song is it, Jan? I couldn't hear her.
Oh, it's Louis Armstrong. "What a Wonderful World."
Oh yeah.
Because that voice is just like nothing. I mean, there's nothing that even comes close to Louis Armstrong's voice. I mean,
It pulls the emotion out of you.
Yeah, between that and the way that he plays is just, he was an enigma, an absolute phenomenal artist through and through. All right, Kathy, what do you got?
Well, I'm with Melissa. God Bless the USA always makes me want to cry. And I am really enamored with our Star Spangled Banner as well. Actually, when I listen to the words of a lot of patriotic songs, I get a little choked up. So I really like all kinds of patriotic music.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. I mean, so this is something, patriotic music in general, right? Why? I mean, I think that we'll kind of get this in question 2, but why do you think it has such an emotional pull? Like whether it's the "What a Wonderful World," right? But she put it in the context of fireworks and the 4th of July and everything else. Just, I guess we don't need to answer that right now, but have that in the back of your head when we get into question 2. I'd like to hear your opinion on why the patriotic music does that, right? Mm-hmm. In couple with what we end up answering with question 2. But all right, David, you are up, my friend.
So I actually have there's 2, and Kathy knows I do a lot with veterans and being a veteran. So the number one is our Star Spangled, or our anthem, our national anthem, and so that just stirs so much in me, and I'm not sure why. And the other one, when I don't think 2 years ago, when the veterans came to the breakfast, I was able to get playing on the big TV, "America the Beautiful," and that is just such an awesome song, and it just really moved me. So those are my 2.
I think the anthem itself, I've heard it sung a bunch of different ways, played a bunch of different ways, because I was Air Force, and so I feel the exact same way when I hear the anthem play. There's just, it's surreal, right? If you actually feel that deep-rooted connection and having the military family heritage that I do and everything else, there's just something way, way deep down that gets pulled out when that song is playing, and especially when it's done really, really well, and there's not all of this like flair, and singers will get up there and go like add all this extra stuff on it. That drives me nuts. I'm like, it is the best when it is pure, that just raw power when they're singing it like he intended it when he wrote it. And that's what I think is super beautiful about it, right? Then, all right, Nicole, what do you got?
I want to say that I agree. First of all, songs have already been chosen, because as soon as I heard those, it was like, oh, like you do, it gets you right there. You can feel it. But I also I like going the other way with it. So like Living in America with, and it's like, I feel good. Like you just get pumped up and amped up as soon as you hear that song. And so that one's like always been a good one for me. And aging myself a little bit, Take Me Home Country Roads by John Denver. I still blare that song as loud as I can and belt it when I'm by myself. Yeah, I love it. I love that song.
Me too.
That one is it's so you used the word belt, right? When you said that, that song is a soft song, right? And it is super intriguing to me that we're capable of belting that song, right? Because of how deeply it can tug. Even though it's this nice, calm melody, you know, you're picturing kind of just like driving through the mountains of West Virginia and everything like that. But you just let it freaking fly whenever that song comes on. Yep, yeah. The convertible top comes off, hair's in the wind. You're just like, yes, America.
It's compulsory as you cross the bridge from Cincinnati into West Virginia.
Yeah.
Or not Cincinnati, that's Kentucky over there. But as you cross into West Virginia, it is compulsory to belt that song out at the top of your lungs.
Yes. Pretty much like that song, and that song is so universally applicable. Like that can be a bonfire song. It can be driving down the Carolina coast. It can be, you know, being in Cali, doing whatever. I mean, it is so you could listen to it pretty much doing anything and still have that same emotion evoked. Mine would have to probably be, I mean, the one that hits me the hardest is definitely the anthem, no matter which way I look at it. I love when it's sung in like a barbershop quartet style with the really tight harmonies, because it's barbershop is very pure. Like there's not a whole lot of flair to it. It's very just dense, very close harmonies, very direct. But my second one would be Toby Keith's Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue. So when there was this section in Air Force Boot called I forget what they called it. I think it was like Beast Week or something like that, but they dump you in the middle of the Texas desert and they say, here, have fun. And you're like, you learn all of like the deployment stuff and whatever, you're building a tent and whatever else. But at the end of that, you know, we went on this long road march and then they took us to this building and they had us all facing out of the building. And then they called us all to attention and we did an about face and this massive flag dropped from the ceiling and they played Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue and then gave us our Beast Week graduation coins. So like in my head, I always remember that moment specifically, hearing Toby Keith and being like, okay, finally, I'm going to get to go back and not drink, you know, not deal with this. I'm done. I'm finally like graduating. I'm going to get to the parade field a week from now. And I can't even explain that, you know, emotion. So that song for sure. And plus he says that he's going to put a boot in the ass of anybody that messes with the USA. So that's a plus as well. All right. Any last comments or questions on that one? Because that's actually a pretty solid set list. I feel like if we put those songs into a playlist and put it out on Spotify, it would be downloaded for sure.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's one of my secret dreams to sing the Star Spangled Banner publicly. Now I did it on a cruise ship in the middle of Europe. They dared me, and I did it in front of a lot of people that I didn't know.
Well,
Acapella at the moment, but I mean, with preparation, I would love to do that starter. Well, actually, the July 4th race, July 4th race, I'd love to do that.
in college, that was the audition piece for the a cappella group.
Mm-hmm.
That was at the university, which you had to sing the
got
Star
a range
Spangled
to
Banner.
it.
So,
Yeah, it's got.
I mean, it's a hard song to sing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was one of
But it comes from the heart.
Yep.
That was one of our audition pieces as well, at Walsh for the a cappella groups and everything. I think that's and it is because it's difficult. What it does is that it tells you whether or not the singer can transfer emotion into the song. And in acapella, that's super, super important. You can't just have good pitch and good tone. You have to be able to transfer emotion because acapella is, I mean, you don't have any instruments to convey the emotion. So you have to do it all vocally. So I think that's a big reason why they use, and I'm sure that, Jenny D, if she pops in, she can correct me on whether or not that's the case or not. But okay, question 2. So remember what I said about keeping question 1 in the back of your head, right? Like, why do patriotic songs kind of invoke these types of emotions from you? So question 2 is, what makes you proud to be an American? Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Melissa.
That's hard to put into words.
Which one you want me to answer first?
You just take it away. I mean, this is like free ball, and you just let it fly.
Okay, so the reason why I think it evokes, why patriotic songs evoke a response is because it's emotional tied. Like your story about going through Beast Week. At least when I was young, we'd say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning before class started. And then the Star Spangled Banner, they'd play that too. I don't know if they did that across the country or if it was just a Southern thing. So that gets instilled because you're doing it from kindergarten through middle school. So it just gets reinforced. Why I'm proud to be an American is the freedom that we have and the diversity that we have. Because like right now, for example, I'm actually at a friend's house. Just how today ended up using their computer. But these friends, her husband is from American Samoa. And he's, I think it's called a naturalized citizen, where he had to go through all the tests and everything.
Yeah.
He's still fluent in Samoan. His mother is Samoan and just came to California for the first time this year.
Oh,
She's
wow.
been in American Samoa for her whole life and does not know any English. And so just the fact that you have a place where all those people, and then you have me, who's been here, or my family's been here since the 1500s. We were Scotch-Irish farmers that came over from Ireland. So just the fact that you have that diversity and you can learn from that diversity if you're willing to, that's what makes me proud. So that's my little soapbox.
I think that before I try to dive down a rabbit hole, did anybody got anything on that? Because I feel like that's a lot to unpack.
Sorry.
No, that's good. Those are the kinds of conversations that we love on here. And we have 2 existential crises experts with us. So nobody, we got nothing. What do we got?
Oh, I could tone in. I didn't know if I was unmuted or not.
No, you're good.
I can't ever not say something. No, that is really the essence of it, is when we can honor and respect that diversity, whether you and I agree politically, religiously, culturally, or any other way, we have the freedom to disagree. I actually posed this question on my page the other day, and my niece came on, who has a completely different viewpoint from a lot of people. And she said what she thought she needed to say, and then she apologized to me privately. She wrote and she says, "I'm sorry, I just said something so totally off base from what your friends are saying. I didn't mean to offend your friends." And I said, that's the beautiful thing. As long as you can be respectful, so I would appreciate you not swearing when you answer my questions. But that's just my rule. But I said the thing is your opinion is as valuable as mine. And it's something that I'm sorry that so many people forget, is we are free to have our opinions and our cultures and our religions and all of our beautiful, beautiful differences, because together they make us pretty awesome. And I will tell you that a moment that was so crystalline for me was right after 9/11. We had a prayer service on Main Street in North Canton. They closed the street and people from all walks of life were standing there. We took hands and we just prayed for, and I'm like, how many countries can this happen? And, you know, a couple of the pastors are kind of leading it, and they weren't all Christian pastors. And I'm like, this is what's beautiful about the U.S.
Yeah.
If we can put aside our differences and embrace the diversity that we enjoy, it's just one of the most beautiful and prideful things about the U.S. That's one of my favorite things about us.
No, yeah, we're built on diversity. I mean, that's our entire country is just, they talk about the melting pot all the time. You know, that's one of the reasons why we became a powerhouse, is because we had all of this different input, and from all these different cultures, all these different immigrants that came over, all of this knowledge kind of pooled together to create what we did. And that continues to happen. there's this balance, right? I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday, and I brought it up again today, that we all have these rights, right? The First Amendment, the Second Amendment, and that's always big, you know, political discussions and everything. But the flip side of that, right, is that we all have the right to do things as Americans, but because we have the freedom to do so, means that we have the responsibility to exercise those rights correctly. And that's the piece that I think a lot of people overlook, is that there's a lot of bloodshed that has happened in order for you to have that right.
Right.
And because of that bloodshed, and because of people sacrificing their lives to give you the right to do that, that's why Memorial Day is a thing, you know, to remember the fact that you have these rights, but because of those people, you have a responsibility to exercise them to the best of your ability, and to be respectful of the rights that other people have. Because just, you know, the freedom of speech thing is a huge one. You know, you have the freedom to say what you want, doesn't mean that you can deprecate somebody for having the same freedom to say what they want to say. That's the beautiful thing about freedom.
I couldn't agree with this conversation any more than I do right now, because diversity was one of the things I wanted to talk about, being third generation to be born on the soil myself, right? So my great-grandmother came over from Scotland. My great-grandmother, my great-grandfather came over from Scotland right off the boat. And so I'm literally the third generation to be blessed on this soil. And when you look at it from that perspective, like that I'm the third generation born on the soil, and how the life of my family has been so impacted by this diversity and by these freedoms that we're already talking about. So these freedoms have really helped us actualize whatever it is we want to actualize in our worlds, right? Like I have the freedom to be whatever it is I choose, right? And I get to choose. And for me, that is one of the most profound and amazing and beautiful reasons for my gratitude for those who serve. Is because I get to do whatever it is I want to do, and why I think freedom is so precious, you know, and why I defend freedom myself. My daughter is currently at basic training herself, so she just went into the National Guard. So I do understand what it is to give your child for this idea of freedom, and really just embrace what that means. So I think, you know, with experiencing my daughter's choice to continue down that path, and to join and to enlist and to be part of that crusade. So you know, for lack of a better word, I feel honored, and I think that I think that the freedom, it means more to me now. It does, because, you know, what's on the table now is a little bit different. My daughter is doing it now. It means so much more to me. And so I really, even though I don't like all the words that are said all the time, I am so respectful of everyone's ideas and so respectful of everyone's differences. And even if I'm not willing to, even if I don't like what someone else is saying, I'm glad that they get to say it.
Right. Yep. I always bring up the poem, the Desiderata, my favorite line in there. And if you've listened to the podcast for longer than 10 episodes, I've probably said it, where you listen to the dull and the ignorant, for they too have their lessons to offer. And regardless of whether someone's socioeconomic status, their educational level, whether you think they're stupid, like they do have something to teach you. So we'll go ahead and move this down over into Tracey. Tracey, what do you got for us? Here, let me see if I can unmute you.
I got it. I figured it out. I get smarter with the computer every day.
I'm so proud.
Actually, I just back up everything you all have said. I think there was an example, and I've had many family members that served in the military, but my uncle Frank Mitchell, just the gentlest, sweetest guy, was actually dishonorably discharged because he was with the group. Oh, he didn't know what was going on. He got lumped in with the trouble. But you would think that would have soured him. That man had such respect for the branch of military he was in and the fact of everything they accomplished. So even though that happened, he didn't look at it as a negative. He just embraced it. This was part of what happens sometimes when you're young, and he just had nothing but respect for the flag, for all the good that it stood for.
Yeah.
Just a great example. So
There's a that I mean, I've talked about my past and stuff like that multiple times on here, right? And it's you realize that whole responsibility thing that I brought up, you realize a lot of what that means. I didn't realize it really until I went to boot. And then until I got, sent on rotations and whatever else, it's a completely different ball game when you start to get into that. And then coming back, I have friends too that kind of got out under shady circumstances, or they were in situations that they shouldn't have been in and whatever else. But they still have a whole lot of respect for what that flag stands for at its core, right? Because a lot of times at the superficial level, sometimes it can get distorted, but at its core, I think we all kind of understand what that stands for. So, all right, Kathy, can you hear me? We'll go ahead and throw you in the loop here. I think you muted yourself. Let me see if I can unmute you. Nope, it's not letting me. You got to unmute yourself. Boop.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear everyone except Tracey, but so I'm sure she said something really awesome because Tracey's always got such a neat way of looking at things, but
she actually kind of took a cop out. She was basically just saying that she reinforced everything that we were saying. So.
Oh, cool. I got you, sister. So David, what makes you proud to be an American? Because I know you are.
Here,
don't forget to unmute.
It's just, I don't know. I don't know that there's any one thing that I can put my finger on. And I'm probably one of the strangest, or have the strangest attitude when it comes to as a veteran. Okay, because I served during the Vietnam era, and a lot of people went to Canada. Okay, and I don't necessarily agree with the fact that they went. But here's the thing. That's why I fought, so that they have the freedom to do that, to choose to go to Canada. Now, and some people don't agree with me on that, and that's okay. So I can't, anyhow. But so I just it boils down to the fact of the freedoms that we have, and again with what you said, you have to respect the others. I have freedom to do pretty much whatever I want, but it doesn't give me the right to speak derogatory about someone, or to belittle them because of their beliefs or anything. So, but I just I don't know, and we're such a nation that in the midst of things, even like what we're going through right now. We have just come together to take care of each other, and that's what we do. We just 9/11 was a good example. When you have a something that goes wrong in a different community, as a whole nation, we go there, whether it's with money, monetarily, or we provide their needs in some way, or we just physically go there and build houses and clean up the mess. And so just a lot of just it, I guess.
Yeah. When you bring up the 9/11 thing and talk about just the United States in general and the whole taking care of each other and everything like that, I just pulled it up on Google because I wanted to make sure that I kind of got the story correctly. But there was almost a 1,000% increase in recruiting immediately after 9/11. I mean, people were fighting to get in line to enlist. And like that, to me, just says you can poke the bear if you want to. I would definitely not recommend it because the bear has 1,500 other bears that are automatically going to jump in and be like, yeah, that's not cool. There's a gentleman that I follow that is he's Special Operations Army, and he is also a UFC fighter, and he does a lot of these talks and this outreach, and he talks about enlisting immediately after 9/11. And he was like, I was standing in line. He was like, I thought that I was going to be a superhero and go to the recruiting office and join. And I stood in line with 80 other people waiting to try to get in and sign papers. And that just blew my mind when I heard that story for the first time, because I was like, that is the US in a nutshell. It's like, we can mess with each other internally, but if you try to mess with the United States from the outside coming in, everybody tends to band together, and it's not going to end well for who the perpetrator was. So that's kind of my little 2 cents on that one.
If any of you, and I know Kathy, you're talking, so I'll shut up because I can't hear you. You're muted again. So
she said, go ahead.
Okay. I'm not a goat head. Anyhow, it just blows me away when we do this Veterans Day breakfast. We feed because there's no money that comes from corporate. So it's just 4 people who come together and did this. But we have to limit it to 100 veterans. But it's amazing when you have Coast Guard, you have Army, you have Navy, Marines, Air Force, every branch of service is there. And from the 19-year-old or the 20-year-old to the 70-year-old, and there's that thread that just runs through that whole group. And like we banter back and forth. The Army, the Marines will say, but the Army and the Navy and all that stuff. But when it comes right down to it,
that never happens.
We're just so connected,
Yep.
and it just amazes me. And there's so much emotion in that room. It's phenomenal. It is just phenomenal, and that speaks to me. That's America right there. Maybe it just is. So I don't know if we're going to get to do it this year or not, but if we do, look for it. Be there. You can come as a non-veteran. You just have to pay your own breakfast way. So, but
and what company is this through, Dave?
we last year we did the last one that we did it over at Arrowhead, and and there's no sponsor. There's just no sponsor that is a company sponsor. There's the majority of us, Angel, Agnes, and myself are both realtors at DHOF. And then there was an insurance company. One of the individuals donated money, and I forget who else. But you can't come and talk politics. You can't come and promote your business because this is about the veterans. And this little puny little guy will throw your butt out if you start trying to solicit for your business or your political gain or whatever. I'll have you removed, or I will. And that's just how strongly I feel about our veterans. And so anyhow.
No, I'll shoot you an email after this. I definitely like to be involved in that in any way that I can, for sure. Because that's
talking about groups, veteran groups. I would love to just share a group that I'm involved in called Hogs Helping Heroes. And that's a group that just started last year. We did our first annual poker run last year. We're hoping that we're going to be able to do the same this year in September. We raised $11,000 last year for Save 22, which was the corporation that we worked with. And this year we're going to be picking another nonprofit that helps veterans with PTSD. And that's the work that we like to do. And it's a nonprofit. And there's no affiliation with politics, or it's just we want to help people in our local area who need help, who are suffering from PTSD and just need a hand up. And that's really the work that we do as well. So that's Hogs Helping Heroes. We have a couple of events going on, and it's just hogs because we all ride motorcycles. So we do a lot of motorcycle events. And so that's the Hogs Helping Heroes part. But it's an amazing organization in itself. And we just got legal. We have our file. We are official on file. And so I think there's going to be a lot coming from us too.
We'll have to talk too, because that's perfect stuff that I want to put out through Apex. So, but while you're unmuted, we might as well go ahead and answer our question, right? So, what makes you proud to be an American?
I think we already really touched on the freedom aspects of it, the diversity aspects of it, which are the two biggest reasons for me, and the American dream, which again, I think is about freedom again. You know, ever since I was a little girl, I grew up very, very poor, but you know, there's no caste in America, right? So I have the right and the ability to change those circumstances. So even though I grew up poor, I didn't have to stay that way. And I was able to make a very successful life for myself. Because those opportunities are here. And that's what I really love about being in America, is the idea of no matter how big my dream, I can chase it and I can actualize it. And that to me is the biggest privilege for living on this soil.
We're just going to go amen, clap, stomp, hallelujah, one more time for the people in the back. That is like on the money. And it's probably because, hey, Nate, are you still out there? Yeah, he's in the back. Yeah, tell him to come in here for a second. All right, so I'm going to bring a guy on screen here. We're going to talk to my friend Nathan here real quick. So Nate is 22 years old, right? Graduated from Glen Oak High School, which is, for Melissa, it's just a local high school in our area. So this dude literally, come here. Oh, you have a hot plant? Go put that away first. This is going to take a second. You're dripping all over the floor. So he's actively washing a hop plant right now, right? Because inside of the incubator here in downtown Canton, we have a full hydroponic growth system set up right now to grow hops, right? Because this is the cool kind of stuff that happens at an incubator, right? But so speaking of, you know, growing up a certain way and then having the ability to change it and everything like that, 22 years old now, has spent years in China researching supply chain logistics, has spent time researching this entire industry, trying to figure out ways to do it, and is now incubating a business to try to empower local communities and farmers to have sustainable food sources through new technology, right? So Nate, you can pop on real quick. So this is him, right? Little
Hey guys.
I mean,
Why don't you just here? I'll unplug the thing so that you can kind of hear if they have any questions or stuff like that. So we're talking about like what makes you proud to be an American, freedom. I mean, just the ability to kind of take whatever you want to do and you can run with it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hear a little bit of your testimony just about like, I mean, you had the ability through Lori Moline and the other things that you had to go to China to do these things as a, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kid. Mm-hmm. And now you're in the position you're in, but it's because of the freedoms that were allowed in the United States. And you've seen both sides of those types of things.
Yeah. And I think it's all about the opportunity. I mean, when I was overseas, I saw a lot of people in lower classes not have the same opportunities as our classes would here. And for someone such as Lori Moline to approach me at school and introduce me to all these fantastic business owners and leaders throughout the Stark County community, those opportunities just aren't readily available for people in overseas countries, unfortunately. And I think that being just given the opportunity here to have our incubator here in the heart of Canton and have all the mentorship I've been given, and it's just extremely important for youth development.
Yeah. And Nicole kind of pointed out too, and she just unmuted, so I'll go ahead and let her talk.
I just want to say hallelujah. Like, it's beautiful to watch, a young person just thrive and take advantage and see all the opportunity around you and just take advantage and run with it, because it doesn't have to be our story here. And you're right, it doesn't have to be our story. It doesn't matter what your circumstances are. You have an opportunity if you want it and you're willing to work for it. And I could tell that you're a go-getter. You're going to get it. Oh
yeah, no. I thought I was a go-getter until I met him, and then I'm like, shit, I need to step my game up. So, all right. Well, I think that takes us all the way through question 2 here. So we'll go ahead and we'll move into question 3. You're good. Yep. All right. I'll plug my headphones back in.
What was?
So yeah, he's like
again?
He's actively washing hops plants right now and putting them into the container. That's why I literally told him to come in here and he was holding a hop plant. Like, what do you want me to do? I was like, go put that down first. Like, I have high quality furniture in here. Okay, so the question 3 is, who do you remember on Memorial Day? And this one's gonna get deep. So
this one, my grandfathers, my papa, which was my mom's dad, he was in the Army, both of them during World War II. And then my granddaddy was my dad's father, and he was in the Navy. So that was fun. Family get-togethers were hilarious. So, because Memorial Day is remember those who have fallen. Both of those have passed on. But then my brother is also active duty Army. So, and I worked I work at a university, and my first job at the university was an academic counselor on Fort Bragg, which is an Army base here in North Carolina. So, and I was in that job for 3 years before I switched to the one I have now, which is not on campus, but not on base, but on the main campus, about 30 minutes north. So, but I did have some students we usually have about 1 or 2 a year that are KIA. And so, which is hard. I mean, to lose anyone is hard, but when you've built that relationship, because, they'd tell me about their families. They'd tell me, because as an academic counselor, you end up using more the counselor side of things than just the academics. So I always pause. I go visit my grandfathers on Memorial Day. I do it throughout the year, but I particularly do it on Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Veterans Day. And then I just take a moment and say a prayer for those. And my brother has had several of his, I guess, battalion mates, some of the guys that he has served with, part of the foundation or the charity that Nicole was talking about, the 22. He has had a couple of the guys that he has fought with and served with become victim of that.
Yeah.
So it's one of the days that I really, as much as, I do like cooking out, I do like celebrating, but I usually take about half the day and I just sit by myself and I just reflect and thank. So
Yeah, I think that's a good balance, because there's normally two camps for Memorial Day, right? There's like the people that like there should be no celebration, and then there's people that are we should celebrate, right? And I'm kind of in the middle too, where it's and the way that I had it explained to me, because I have friends that either, whether it was the 22 or it was just being overseas in general, are not here. And I was sitting with one of my buddies and we were talking about it the one day, because we were both friends with this individual, and we were both like, part of it is paying tribute, and then the other part of it is that crazy SOB would definitely want us to do a shot.
exactly.
And so it's like, we're going to do both. They're not here to enjoy it with us, so I'm going to shotgun a beer for them,
Right.
And but then also, like you said, taking that time where you could just disconnect, take a step away. The thumbnail for tonight's live stream was where me and my dad went and we sat and had a shot of Slivovitz with my grandpa. And just kind of me and him, we do that every year. We just sit there and we kind of update Gramps on, what the state of the union is for both of us. And it's kind of cool because, like, even though he's gone at this point, me, him, and my dad all get to have a conversation once a year and kind of give everybody updates on what's happening, and then try to get his opinion on the bird's eye view. So it's cool to hear that there's that mentality is similar.
Yeah,
for sure. So, all right, Tracey, what do you got for us?
As I unmute, my husband is huge into military history. Had several family members. And when it comes to the celebration of Memorial Day, I see both sides of it. I am definitely somebody who believes in celebrating life. And I also have a belief that even when you cross over, you go on. But to jump into that, I think when it comes to Memorial Day or any day that pays tribute to our veterans, and it can be D-Day. I'm pretty well schooled in some of the history. Can I back up? The best way I can say it is, for me as a person, what I feel is I feel the connection with the people from before. It's like walking in to Gettysburg, into a place that's had action, and you can feel, and it's almost an ancestral feel. There's some connection I have to whoever's been there, and I don't know in what way or what form, that I can feel the pain and the agony of everything that went on. And even in the midst of the pain and the agony, there's still sparks of beauty and celebration. There's always something you can hold on to. And that's how it grips me. And that's how come I break down when I hear songs. That's what it pulls from me. I don't know if that makes any sense, but how do you see it?
No, I definitely think that it does. I can't think of a better way to explain it, because that is like you talking about Gettysburg specifically. That is tough. The Civil War in general, right? Because that's brother against brother, father against son, neighbor against neighbor. But at that point, to your point, it's a weird mixture of pride and agony, because there's cadences. There's these things called cadences, right? That everybody, like, drill sergeant is screaming it at the top of his lungs. Everyone's pissed because we're on mile 7 and he doesn't seem like he's slowing down. And you're singing these, and they indoctrinate you using these cadences while you're running or marching or whatever, and there's one specifically that came to mind when you started talking, and it's, if I die in a combat zone, box me up and ship me home. pin my medals to my chest, tell my mama I did my best. Right. And it's like you're singing that as you're running with all of your brothers and sisters, right and left. You're going, and it's just like you're accepting the fact that this is what I'm choosing to do. And I'm wholeheartedly, like when they say you're signing on the dotted line, you're like, I'm willing to die for that flag. And that's the thing where David was talking about how closely knit everybody is. I like whether you're the Coast Guard or you're in the Air Force or you're in the Marine Corps, you're in the Army, you know, if you're in the club, you can mess with the club. But if you haven't missed birthdays, if you haven't missed Christmases, if you're not missing friends, you know, or you haven't made those sacrifices, it's hard for people inside of the club to let you come in and try to attack it, because it is something, it's a completely different feeling. And Nicole, like she said, is kind of getting a taste of that, having her daughter, right, enlist. I'm not going to be able to put it into words, so I'll just leave it at that. But great insight, as always. All right, Kathy, we'll go ahead and throw you on there.
Well, let's hear from David. David, who are you thinking about?
So there's two, and one is no longer with us. And this is the strangest thing in the world. Okay, he was but he was raised in California, and I'm in Ohio. We end up in Vietnam in the same battalion, and he was my birthday is September 6th. His is September 5th. Okay, His name is Kenneth Daniel Armstrong. My name is David Kenneth Ingione. So that the birthday, the initials was really what connected us. And the reason I think he drove for the captain, and he took the captain to a heliport somewhere, and on the way back was he died. He was hit by a civilian vehicle, and he died there. So the whole connection that we had and everything, and I was very angry at the time because the medic said if he lives 7 days he'll be fine. Well, don't ever tell anybody that type of statement, because on the 8th day he died. But so I remember him and honor him. And then the living person that I honor as a veteran was my captain that I had, and we were kind of in an outpost, and he just took and he was from Cleveland, but he just took the time to, I mean, he's a captain, okay, and I'm at that time I think I was in E5, but he showed me so much respect for me as an individual, and he outranked me by several ranks, but never ever treated me or anyone with any disrespect. And I have so much respect for that man because of that. So those are the two that I remember. And Nicole, to you talking about supporting nonprofits. I'm involved with the nonprofit in Maslin, actually over by Brewster, that is called it's Whispering Grace Forces / Freedom Farms. Freedom Farms works with the PTS veterans, and if you ever want to go there, let me know. And of course, right now it's all shut down. But so that's the one thing. And
Bill and Marsha are phenomenal humans, both of them. are amazing.
So, yeah.
I work really closely with Whispering Grace and Freedom Farms too, and they are just Bill just has that ability that, you know, like you walk in and you instantly know this is like no sideways intention, no BS. Like, this is what we do. This is how we do it. And, you know, this is who we're going to take care of. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
So you're right. And the strange thing about going there is I went to learn how to work with the horses, to work with other veterans. And I'm like, okay, I'm not liking what's happening here because it's happening to me. That's not why I went, you know? And so I'm thankful, but I knew that at first I would hit and miss, because, you know, when something or someone is pointing out areas where you need to heal, that hurts, you know? So I would hit and miss, but now I was scheduled every Friday then. I would schedule every Friday because I thought if I'm going to do this, I have got to commit to that. So I did. And so it is terrific. And one other thing, and then I'll be quiet for a little while anyhow. And you can see I have to talk with my hands. But almost every veteran that I meet talks and they'll like, for me, okay, if they called me today, which they won't because I'm an old fart, but if they called me today to go and defend this country or go and fight, I would go. I would pack my bags and go. And I have, in all the time, I've ran across one person that regrets having served. One person. Now, I'm not saying there's not more, but one person. They have all said, I would do it again.
Who?
And go ahead. I'm done. Shut up.
That's it. Who ya, man. That's all I was saying. That's just, there's it never goes away. Like, it's in your blood, and if something happens that makes your blood hot, you know, that duffel bag gets stacked and you're, you know, itching, waiting to jump back in. So, all right, Nicole.
So I think this is an interesting question to ask me, because I do think about I just think about things a little bit differently than most. In fact, I think about the word warrior itself. To me, it's a sacred path. To me, that is it's an honor, and it's bigger than just if you attend the military. You know, it's also those who fight for the meek and the weak, and those who stand up for liberties that aren't being upheld, and those who you know, us women who want to break the glass ceilings in industries. I was a welder and a hazmat worker and CDL operator, and you know, so you know, it's just that drive to move forward with progress, whether or not it's in the military. And I have an attitude of gratitude, really, for all of. There's just so many, right? There's so many when you think about it, and I like to just spend the day, at least the mornings. I'm a very celebratory person. I love to celebrate and be in gratitude as much as possible. I will say your cadence made me cry, though. That I'm like, okay, get it together, you know, because I just think of my daughter singing that, right? I'm like, ooh, that's tough, but
that's that warrior. That's that warrior mentality,
right? You know,
there's whether you're the beautiful thing, and David can probably attest to this. Regardless of what era you served, right? Whether you're World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korea, Gulf War, Afghanistan, you know, no matter what, the one thing that drives me crazy about, like, born and raised in Canton local, right? I'm like a full-bred redneck. Yeah, and so, like, there's parts of that population that seem to think that the military is like everyone looks like me, right? And I'm like, like, I don't care if you're blue, green, black, purple, yellow, red, if you got, whatever color eyes you have, what your socioeconomic status was, what your parents were like, what background you come from. I don't give two flying craps, right? If you have that same passion, that warrior mentality, that drive, that respect for the flag, and you're willing to sit in a foxhole with me with a rifle, cool. You got my back. I got your back. Life's good. And that's something that I love about the service. And to the point with this whole warrior mentality thing is that it's not, it has no barriers. If you got it, you got it. And it doesn't matter where you come from. I know people that are in the service that are now captains. And actually one of them, I'm pretty sure, just got promoted to lieutenant colonel, that when they joined, it was like, I'm either going to join the military or I'm going to be in a gang. And they joined the military and kicked ass, and I can't think of anybody that I've met that regrets serving. I haven't been around quite as long as David. Maybe I'll run into one person at some point. But I haven't met anybody that's been like, that was a horrible decision. Even some of my friends that got out early for reasons, whether it was in their control or not, every single one of them was proud to have worn the uniform for however short of a period of time. So.
That's what I really love about it. Just looking at it, just experiencing it through the letters of my daughter is, like how this is forcing her to actualize. Like it's pushing her so far beyond her boundaries and what she thought she could be capable of, to see what her real and actual capability is, what she's really made of. And I think that is something that's going to serve her in her entire life, right? Like, and I'm so blessed that she had the opportunity now that I get to look at it from her eyes, because had she never been pushed this far out of her box this early in life, would she have ever been pushed that far out of her box?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Apex would not be, if it weren't for the military. I constantly tell people, if it weren't for my grandfather and me enlisting at 17 and a half, I would most likely have OD'd or have been in juvenile detention and then probably county. Just straight up, right. And then the military took me, and even though I was in the chair force, right, boot still sucked. And they still, like you said, they force you to actualize. They push you way beyond what you believe you're capable of, through the entire process being, I'm going to tear you down and build you back up into your full potential.
It's the best, worst thing you've ever done, right?
Exactly. Yeah. We have a Facebook group on Facebook there, because it's a Facebook group, but it's Lackland Air Force Base Flight B411, and all of my sister flight and brother flight are still inside that Facebook group, and we all still check up on each other. How are you doing? Are you out now? What are you doing in life? How's the wife? I saw that you had a kid. What's that like? That bond never goes away, and she'll remember that for the rest of her life. Graduating boot and that feeling of accomplishment, realizing that you earned, you said Army, National Guard?
Army. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So earning a coin, there's nothing that replaces that. So.
Thank you for sharing that, because it is like, I think this is, having her in the military now and at boot camp during this Memorial Day, I think it just, it brings it to a whole new level for me. And a whole new space of gratitude and a whole new understanding of the values of what we have and what we fight for. And that's really been just an honoring and humbling. It's been humbling and honoring. And it's so awesome that all 6 of us have gathered in the space today with so much in common, and right out of the gate, with all of the places that we support and the connections that we have and we will have after today. I think that's really neat that happens.
Yeah. Well, you can, I'm right down there. Boop.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah. Thanks, Kathy. She's the one that came up with all of these shenanigans. So I had to give her, full credit for everything with hashtag Let's Talk About Something Else and everything that's going on. Phenomenal lady.
Thank you. Well, it's, usually these shows are a lot lighter, but Memorial Day it's such a time of remembrance, and sometimes remembering the best and the worst. So I think about my grandfather who was in World War I. He was a trench soldier. And in those days, your company was from your neighborhood. So I actually pray for the people that my grandpa went to war with. Clearly, he made it home. He was one of two in his company. It was a very large group of people. 2 people came home. And I only recently found out that he spent 4 months in a French hospital before he came home. So I think of those points. My grandpa didn't talk about his time in the service at all. I mean, he was in hell. Every so often he told us little bitty snippets of what it was like to be there. But I remember a very haunted look in his eye, and he goes, "You can't imagine what it's like to watch all the kids that you grew up with picked off one by one by one." And
Jesus.
Like I said, 2 guys came home. So my husband loves the History Channel, and he often watches, there's a lot of films from different wars. And I'm always wondering if my grandpa's in one of those pictures. My grandpa was one phenomenal guy. And he, like you've said, what he did say about the Army, as hellish as it was, the only thing he ever told me, well, he told me 2 stories about the trenches. One was one of faith, and one was he said he would have sold his soul for a dry pair of socks. But
I don't doubt it.
I can't imagine living in the trenches. He was in the trenches. I know there was a 9-month stint that he was down there. But the other one, he talked about, he was leaning against a post on night watch, and he heard as clearly as you or I talking, "Duck." And well, he said, no, he said, it said, "You need to write to the Sunday school class back home." And he's like, yeah, I'll do that. And he said, "No, now." And he said he slid down the post he was leaning against, and it shuddered. And here a bullet went right where his head was just seconds before. So he said that was God telling him to duck. Unfortunately, not everyone he went to war with ducked. And so I always think of those guys that, they probably were all from the same neighborhood and kind of rah-rah, because that was back then. It was very rah-rah when you were going. And how he must have felt coming home without all the guys that he grew up with. So I remember my grandpa because he was such a special guy, but I think about his comrades in arms and all those people that died in those horrible, horrible wars. They're all horrible, but to see, some of the scenery that we see, that we're privileged to watch from our armchairs any day of the week. So anyway, so I get kind of cheered up because I know my grandpa was haunted to the end of his life by that. So
yeah, they're my gramps was a Marine in Korea, and he definitely didn't talk about all of that all the time either, because he was right on the DMZ. So
no, they don't talk about that.
No, and that's that. Just being respectful.
I'd rather talk about something else.
Yeah, and I just recently went to Slovakia. I wanted to throw this in. I wasn't gonna throw it in throughout the whole. I wanted to throw it in right at the end because it's not technically like U.S. patriotism. But so my grandfather in Slovakia was also in the service during World War II, but served in Slovakia. And so one thing that he always said is that because he had different interactions, right, with U.S. troops. And he said that, like, I'm going to paraphrase because there's not like really a way to kind of direct translate it into English, but along the lines of like, the Americans are just like a completely different ball game as far as dedication, like what they're willing to go through, how like they can maintain a positive attitude in the crappiest of situations. He's like, I don't get it. He's like, the Slovak military, it doesn't even come close. He's like, you guys just have this different echelon of human that is in there. And I was like, I don't think it's we're not any different as far as humans. We're not, it's like, we have the same DNA, right? It's that internal fire and that drive that ever since day one, when we were a bunch of, drunk hilljacks with muskets trying to kick out the British, we've been scrappy sons of bitches. and that's just how it is. Like that warrior ethos is so deep within our society at this point that at the drop of a hat, you have thousands of people flocking, which is why a lot of the world is so freaked out, because we have the most guns per capita in civilian hands in the world. And it's like, even if they were to try to defeat the military, you have enough veterans and hunters and all these other people that are going to snipe you from a mile away because they're so used to hunting elk that it's no factor. I mean, we literally would just like have this massive National Guard renegade army that would be able to stop pretty much anything. And I think about that too, that people think about the 1% that are still in the military, and they completely discount a lot of times the number of veterans that are walking around that are just as equally, that warrior ethos doesn't disappear. And we're all still out here just as willing to throw down if need be. So I don't know. We'll go ahead and unmute here, and I'll kind
Now,
of.
we didn't even go to food again, Jan. We haven't talked about food yet.
We have not.
I'm trying to lighten it up here. It's been a really heartfelt episode. Usually we're laughing a lot, so I hope you all will come back and laugh with us too. But it's kind of a serious and emotional thing, this love for our country and all the things that we have so much gratitude for those who died for those rights that we enjoy and those privileges that we enjoy. And I mean, it's not funny, the things that our veterans and our forefathers went through. So it's not hard to find the lightheartedness, but it is something that is so, I don't think it's a unique American experience, but we are Americans, and so we feel this for our country. So that's my 2 cents.
Yep.
One thing I'd like, and this took, say it took me 50 years to learn this, okay? And the reason that I think there's so many veterans that struggle with the PTSD and suicide and all those things is 2 reasons. When you're in the military, whether you like that person standing next to you or not, you're like this with them, and it keeps coming back to that. Mm-hmm. So that they're going to take care of you, and so when you then and the other thing is, what do you, as a military person, what are you trained for? You're trained for the battle. Mm-hmm. Whether you're in the Air Force or where, that you're trained for that battle. So you come home out of that, and you no longer have this type of camaraderie. Mm-hmm. You might have this, but you don't have this. And so you miss that, and you're not sure of what your purpose is. Mm-hmm. Because when you were in the military, again, you were trained for the battle. That was your purpose. And now I don't know what my purpose is. And I think that causes a lot of trauma in an individual's life, and so it helps me understand me, and it helps me understand that other veteran that is struggling with whatever their lack of purpose. My grandson was in Afghanistan, and he stepped on a mound, and his sergeant called him back, and it blew up. Had he went forward, he probably would not have come home. But when he came home, he drank like crazy and got in a lot of trouble and wrecked a vehicle and all of those other things. And his mom was so fed up with him and angry about his behavior. And once I was able to tell her that here's why he's behaving that way, I think it helped her to understand him and help him turn that corner. So And I only share that because if it helps you to understand someone, what they're going through, then it's all well and good. And that hopefully you'll have a better understanding when you run into someone that is maybe not doing so well. And you'll have maybe a little bit better of an idea. So again, I will be quiet.
No, I could listen to you talk all night, man. We'll have to get together. I want to sit down and have a more in-depth discussion about some of this stuff, because I think that there's a lot of when I started this whole thing, just Apex in general. First off, I never dreamed that I would actually have the platform that I do. It was, we had 3 listeners, and 2 of which were me and Jacob. And at this point, this whole rights and responsibilities thing, I'm kind of going through this whole like Spider-Man-esque crisis, right? Where I'm like, okay, now I have the power and now I have the responsibility, right? And I know that there's a lot of veterans that listen to this specifically because a lot of my friends from Boot will message me and say, hey, I'm sharing your stuff on base or whatever else. So we need to sit down and talk and maybe come up with a way to kind of perform an outreach through this, because we have the platform. I know that we have kind of the listeners and stuff, and I'd like to get your input on that for sure. So Kathy, I appreciate you making the connection as always. Our network will grow ever more interconnected moving forward, since we already know all the same people. But all right, so we'll go ahead and unmute
Stop
everybody.
stealing all my friends, Jan.
Yeah, stop giving them to me. I'm not stealing them. You're bringing them to the party.
I sure am.
All right. We can go ahead and unmute. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. Appreciate you guys taking the time to stop by. That me, Kathy, and Tracey were able to sucker you into hanging out with us. For everybody was listening tonight, I know that this was a really deep talk, and it wasn't maybe necessarily something that you could chime in on. I saw a bunch of people in my watch party and popping in and out of here. But if you have any questions afterwards, if you know a veteran that's struggling, or like yourself is struggling, shoot me a message, and I can get you connected with who you need to be connected with. And I know that me, Nicole, and David will definitely be talking, whether it's via email or phone call or whatever after this, and I'll expand that even more. So again, thank you guys for stopping by. Melissa, thanks for hopping from North Carolina. Tracy, as always, it's great to see you. And
Thank you.
been another awesome episode of Let's Talk About Something Else. So
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
See you soon.
I look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you for
Thank you,
coming,
Nicole,
ladies.
David, Melissa.
Thank you.
all right, everybody.
Bye.
I appreciate you guys stopping
Bye.
by. We will
Bye.
on the flip side. David, have a good day, my brother.
Bye,
You as
everybody.
well.
All right.
Thanks for letting me in.
Boom. And end.
Okay.